Hey, good morning, everyone. It's April 5th on a Sunday morning. And yeah, I wanted to just have a reflection. So I'm doing this program called Next Level Trainings, which is a program that it's like emotional intelligence training. And I thought it was pretty interesting. So we finished day one, which was from 10 a.m. to I think like 9 p.m. So it was a pretty long day, but it was really awesome. Some of the takeaways I've gotten from it were that just it's interesting because the topic, a lot of, of course, it's hard to ignore the pandemic. So we had an exercise where we wrote down um, what's like going on right now, like because of the pandemic. And what I realized from that is it's an opportunity for me to double down on my relationships. So I have been reaching out to friends I haven't spoken to in a while, and it was interesting because I we had a Zoom call. I set up a Zoom call because I was just calling like Davis and Regina, and Justin, and Natalie, and Jameson, etc. And Jameson pointed out, it's like, man, it took us a pandemic to get us all together. Like, oh man. So yesterday, we afterwards at night we played Monopoly and we hung out with them. And one of the things I realized from reflecting is to make the effort despite everyone being far away. We were at one point like all in different states and different cities. So Justin Natalie lives in Philadelphia. We live in New York City, obviously. And then Regina and Davis moved to Orange County, and then Jameson was in Seattle at some point, but then now he's also in California. And yeah, it was interesting to see that from this training program, there was a lot of cool things that came from it. And so to give you guys additional context, Lewis Howes, who's this famous podcaster, has like 60 million downloads, like really big influencer. He hosts a yearly conference in Columbus, Ohio called the Summit of Greatness, where you meet like all sorts of people who are into self-development. And it's like a really, really cool experience where I went and I met some of the coolest people there. Shout out to Gina and Spencer and Kiri and all the amazing people I met there as well. But yeah, it was really cool. So anyways, to go back to next level training, we went to breakout rooms and it was good practice because you talked about everyone's strengths and what we call them superpowers, but it was essentially like everyone's like essence, or strengths. And then we also talk about areas of opportunity. So we all went around and everyone said really nice things about me. They were like, "Oh, you're inspiring. You're very empathetic. Like you're very wise. Like you have good energy." I keep noticing like good energy was what a lot of people said, like positive energy. So first you say about yourself, right? So you talk about your strengths and what your superpower is. So I think I said something like, "I take action. Like I'm a doer." But then everyone else, and this is interesting because it's like we've only known each other for like 12 hours, right? Or even less than that because during this exercise we've only met each other for a few hours. But it really helps you understand that everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, and not one is better than the other, and just it's it's just what's so, right? But it's our interpretations and it's our values that might be different, and because of that, we might like prejudge someone. So I realized that from this exercise, I was judging a lot of people, and when you judge other people, it's actually like you judge yourself as well, right? That it all starts with myself. So really interesting reflections, but it was a fascinating experience. I highly recommend it. So just go to nextleveltrainings.com. And out of all the trainings I've done so far, this is actually one of my favorites because it was very like hands-on. We did a lot of exercises. We spent a lot. So it was less like lecture based, and it was more like they call it experiential, but basically it's more like you get into groups most of the time. So I thought that was really cool. There was over almost 400 people in the exercise, which is amazing. That's like incredible. So one of the things we learned is to see the opportunity in everything, or the blessing in disguise, right? So I wrote in the chat box when we were going through some of the exercises. Um, so I wrote like me being let go from multiple jobs, me like my father leaving, and me not getting the job the first 3 times at LinkedIn was actually some of the best things that has happened to me. And it might like why would that make sense? But after reflecting, it's like, well, actually, like those jobs showed that I tend to be like a rebel, right? So there were instances where I skipped classes and just went to work, right? But then they had my class schedule. So after like doing like a audit at the end of the year, they're like, why did you come to work these days? And yeah, but it was interesting, right? Because I think like looking back at it, like everything happens for a reason. But I could have just been honest, right? I could have just been like, hey, like actually skip classes to go to work. But like, how do you explain that, right? So I think there was an opportunity for me to just be honest, but I think I was just afraid. Like I was just like, but then, and it's interesting because they didn't even give, like, there wasn't even the opportunity to like speak my truth. They were just kind of like, yep, this is what happened. You're let go. But I think I was just afraid of confrontation, so I just didn't do anything about it. But anyways, that was a takeaway as well. Um, and the second takeaway from the things that I mentioned, was that with my father, like if that didn't happen, I don't think I would be so into the all this self development stuff, right? I wouldn't be going to all these conferences, meeting people from all over the world. And I think the reason why like it was great that my parents separated was because like it's helped me get to this place where I get to help literally thousands of people, and I get to coach and mentor so many amazing people. And I don't think I would be as into it, honestly, because I feel like I wouldn't necessarily have this like quote unquote void that I'm filling. But in a way, like it's good that this all happened. And lastly, to reflect on the third piece, the first 3 times of me not getting LinkedIn, when I finally did get it, like think about how happy you are when you get your dream job, right? Like it just makes it that more special. And because of that, I'm much more involved with like LinkedIn's culture stuff, whether it's leading LinkedIn's Asian Alliance or being involved with Cheers for Charity, and putting together all these events and volunteering so many hours and being involved with so many nonprofits and the social impact stuff at LinkedIn. So yeah, I hope you all thought this was interesting. It was, for me, this is a good way just to reflect and kind of like digest, because we went over so much stuff yesterday. And a couple more points that I would like to add. So I wrote down here um, that actually, like I slept, I think 7 hours, which is actually 2 hours more than I normally slept. And I noticed like when I go to a lot of these self-development things, because a lot of things like come up for you or for me and for people when they go through these things. So I realized that I was depriving myself of sleep, and I had the story that like, oh, in order to be successful, you have to like sacrifice sleep. But that's not necessarily true. I think just because that happens for a lot of people and a lot of CEOs like sacrifice sleep doesn't necessarily mean that like that's like the only way to do it. So that was one of the things I've learned. And also the thing that I got from the exercise is like just letting go of comparing myself to others, that it's fine to be where I am. And only when I accept that, I'm able to like move on and progress forward. And just being patient, not only being patient with myself. And it's interesting because everything we say about other people is how we feel about ourselves, like subconsciously. So the way I'm being impatient with myself, I'm also being impatient with that about others as well, right? Instead of just meeting people where they're at. And then I also realized that things always work out. It always does. It always does. No matter all like how much I have anxiety about like, oh, is this deal gonna come in? Is this gonna come through? Like it always does. But I always, there's it's called the fight or flight mode, where I always think, no, like it, like is this gonna come through? So it's an interesting reflection. So taking care of well-being was a really, really huge opportunity. And yeah, well, I hope you guys all enjoy these reflections from next level trainings. Like, definitely feel free to reach out to me. on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on my blog, whatever. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this little reflection. Cheers, everyone. Hope you all stay safe, and I love you guys. Cheers.